Salli ala Rasulihil Kareem. Amma ba'd. Chaliye. Since you started late, we'll have to continue now. No break in the middle. सबने बहुत समोसे खा लिए हैं, कबाब भी खा लिया है, इसलिए ब्रेक की जरूरत नहीं है इंशाल्लाह. ठीक है ना? असर की अजान तक पढ़ लेते हैं जल्दी जल्दी, because we got a lot to cover. We've only done 30 pages and we have so much to cover yet. चलिए.
The Prophet ﷺ had simple black hoofs, leather socks, which were one of the gifts of the leaguers to him. The leaguers was an unbelieving king who later became Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ did wudu and wiped over them and prayed without investigating whether or not they were from the skin of a legally slaughtered animal. He continued to wear them until they became torn.
This is about khuffain. Nabi Pak sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to wear khuffain. What is the meaning of khuf? Haji? Leather socks, not normal socks, right? Normal socks in Arabic are called jawrabain, right? And in Bukhari and Muslim, wherever the masla of masah, wiping comes, right? The word is masah al khuffain. You won't find anywhere in Bukhari or Muslim the word jawrabain, right? So don't translate khuffain as normal socks. And don't say you can do masa on normal socks. Because they were socks made from leather. Special material. Then there are some adab of masah on khuffain, leather socks. Number one, you have to wear them with full taharat, wuzu. You can't just put them on in the morning when you go to work and then do masa on them at zuhr. And you should have wuzu before you put them on. And number two, there is timing. You can do masa on them for 24 hours from the moment your wuzu breaks after wearing them. If you are a musafir, then 3 days and 3 nights. Number three, if there was need for ghusl janabat, then you would have to take them off. You can't do ghusl with them on. Number four, they should not be torn. If there is tear and holes in them, you can't do masa on them. Water is seeping through them, you can't do masa on them. Then the adab. Hazrat Shaykh Zakaria Nawwarallahu Marqadahu mentions, start with the right. He also mentions before wearing the khuf, shake it and check there's nothing inside. There's a story mentioned by Tabarani that once Nabi Pak sallallahu alayhi wasallam put on his right khuf. He was going for the left one and suddenly a crow came and flew down very quickly and took that left khuf sock and flew over with it and then threw it down. When he fell down, due to the gravity of the fall when it hit the earth, right, there was a small snake inside. It came out and went away. Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Alhamdulillah, Allah saved me. And then he said, whenever you wear your khuf, shake it first, look inside and then wear it. So, this is among the adab. Over here, this khuf was simple black. And it was given by Najashi. Now Najashi was an unbelieving king, meaning at that time he was a disbeliever. Hazrat Shaykh Yunus Sahab Rahmatullah Alayhi mentioned over here, अगर मसलहत का तकाजा हो तो काफिर का हदिया लेने में हरज नहीं, वइल्ला फला. If there is some maslahat in accepting a gift from a non-Muslim, then there is no harm in there. If there is no maslahat, then avoid it. The masla of accepting gifts from non-Muslims, Shaykh Yunus Sahab touched on it. The rest is clear. Prophet ﷺ did wudu and then wore them and then wiped over them. He prayed without investigating they were whether or not they were from a skin of a legally slaughtered animal, meaning zabiha. He didn't check whether the animal was a zabiha or not, because they were clean. And even if a skin is of a non-zabiha and you tan it properly and clean it, get rid of all the dirt and sticky stuff from it, then it becomes pak and you can wear it. He continued to wear them until they became torn. Chaliye.
The sandals of our master, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
हाँ नाल मुबारक जी.
They have two straps. Kibab is the strap between the middle toe and the one next to it. The straps passed over the top of the foot. There was no hair on them. It was removed by tanning or some other process.
हाँ.
He would pray in
The sandals, the slippers of Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they were made from leather. And they had two straps. You know, when you wear flip-flops, they have one strap between the two front fingers, right? And then it goes into two parts. But over here, Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam sandals had double straps. One over here between the toe and the next finger, and one at the end between the small finger and the next one, right? They would both meet in the middle and then part, and one would go to the back, one would go. Why two straps? To make it stronger, so it doesn't snap. So this, you must have seen the naqsh of Na'al Mubarak, right? That is how it was. And Hazrat Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanvi Rahmatullah Alayhi wrote in Zadus Sa'id that there are some khasa'is of it. And ulama have experienced some khasa'is, specialities of it. He wrote in there that due to its barakat, ziyarat naseeb hoti hai, zalimon se najat milti hai, har dil azizi muyassar hoti hai. Shaykh Yunus Sahab said, असल में इस तस्वीर की कोई असल नहीं, सिर्फ हदीस को सामने रखकर अपनी समझ के मुताबिक सबने बना दिया है. There is no asal basis of this tasveer and photo. People kept the this hadith in mind and made the naqsha according to their understanding. So otherwise there is no basis of it. This is what something Hazrat Thanvi mentioned about some tajrba and experience of mashayikh with it. Chaliye aage.
He would pray in sandals which were patched. He forbade from wearing.
He would pray in them sandals, meaning if need for it. Not all the time. Sometimes, praying outside, because he used to pray outside as well. So he wouldn't feel the need to take them off because they were very thin, right? And when he would go into sajda, his toes would touch the earth as well. Unlike our shoes, Doc Martens, where you can't even touch the earth, it's so thick sole. You have to take them off. Can't pray namaz in them. Allama Anwar Kashmiri said no, namaz in them is not allowed. These were sandals with thin, and he would pray namaz in them when needed. Not all the time, sometimes when there was need. So if we are in janazah in Qabristan, we don't need to take our shoes or slippers off. There's no ruku sijda in there. You can pray in your shoes and sandals and slippers. Provided they are parked, there's no najasat on them. Chaliye.
He forbade from wearing only one sandal. One should either wear both sandals or go barefoot.
He said, don't do that. And Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah Alayhi said, Mumana'at barai adat. This forbiddenness is when a person makes a habit of it. If this happened occasionally, kabhi kabar aisa ho jaye, to haraj nahi. Kama warada fi riwayatin. Like it happened in one riwayat, right? That once Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was going somewhere and one strap broke from his sandals. So he took it off and he was wearing in one shoe because the distance was short as well. And he just kept on walking with the other shoe, other sandal. So occasionally it's alright, but don't make a habit of it. Chaliye.
He forbade a person from eating with the left hand. He commanded that one begin by putting on the right sandal and when
don't eat with the left hand. This masla will come again as well. Chaliye.
And when removing them, to start with the left foot.
When starting wearing your sandals, shoes, slippers, alright, will you make a habit of this inshallah? From now, when you go downstairs, wear your right shoe first. Okay? Shaitan makes us wear our left first. You check it. When you go downstairs, Shaitan will make you wear your left first. You have to say, what was astaghfirullah? Right? If that happens, take it off. Alright? And then put the right one on first, and then wear the left one. Right? One of our mashayikh entered the masjid in a rush and entered inside with the left foot. A voice from the unseen called out, "You are entering my courtyard, my house, and you enter with the left foot?" Allahu Akbar. He immediately rushed outside and then came back in with the right foot and with reading the dua of entering the masjid. See, because they were mashayikh, so they were reprimanded instantly. So we should also try and hold on to sunnat properly. Ji.
Because he liked to begin with the right in all praiseworthy matters.
I've explained this before. Ji.
His signet ring.
His ring.
His
Ring, for ladies, all types of rings are okay. For gents, only silver ring is allowed. Not gold, not platinum, not metal, not plastic. Right? Only silver rings are allowed for men. Not brass, not copper, don't wear these things. This is the maslak of Hanafiya. Hanafi fatwa. Shafi'iyya say it is allowed from other materials as well because of the hadith iltamis walau khataman min hadid. Hanafiya's dalil is mali yajidu min karih al-asnam. On the next day, mali yara alayka hilyata ahli nar. Shaykh Yunus Sahib said, ad-dalail muta'adida fal-awla at-tarku. Dalail are different, therefore best is to avoid rings made from other materials. Shaykh Yunus Sahib said the incident of making a ring for the Prophet ﷺ happened in the year 6 after Hijrah, or another call is year 7 after Hijrah, meaning between the period of Sulh Hudaybiyah and Fatih Makkah, those 2 years. That is when Prophet ﷺ, was allowed to settle down a little bit. Things had calmed down. The mushrikeen had stopped attacking Medina Sharif and they had stopped their wars and battles. So he started writing letters to the kings, and he was told that they don't accept a letter unless it's sealed. So he made this anguti ring and he put a seal on it, Muhammad Rasul Allah. But look at his adab. He didn't put Muhammad at the top. He put Allah at the top, Rasul in the middle, Muhammad at the bottom. This is due to the adab and respect for the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when he would seal it, he would also seal straight. Otherwise, it would go other way around. But this was mu'jiza of his ring, that he would seal it and he would seal straight as well. And whenever he would write letter, he would seal it with that. That's why he made that ring. So this is the story behind the ring. He used to wear that ring. We can also wear silver rings, maybe in shadi, weddings. Look after yourself, beautify yourself, special occasions, right? And it's allowed, it's okay. No harm in there. On special occasions, it's mustahab, desirable to wear it. Chaliye.
He literally wore a gold ring, but then threw it away and forbade from wearing it.
This is in the beginning. Chaliye.
He had a silver ring made, the stone of which was made from onyx or carnelian, brought from Abyssinian mines. The silver ring whose stone was of silver too.
This is another one. Two rings. One was where there was the onyx, and the other one was made from silver. Ji.
He would keep the stone on the inside of his palm.
Inside of his palm, right? Not outside. Ji.
Sometimes he did not wear it.
He did not wear it means Shaykh Yunus Sahib said, "Aam ahwal mein nahi pehnte the." He wouldn't wear it all the time. Occasionally he would wear it. Chaliye.
He used to seal letters to kings because they only accepted sealed letters.
Chaliye.
He had engraved on it, Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, each word being engraved on a separate line. Muhammad on one line, Rasul on the next line, and Allah on the third line.
As I mentioned in the riwayat, that it was Allah was on top, Muhammad at the bottom. Ji.
Because of this, he removed it when he entered the lavatory.
Because Allah's name was on it. So when he would go to the toilet, he would take it off, put it outside, and then go to the toilet. Because Allah's name is visible. So he would take it off. So if we have something on which there's Allah's name visible, like people have t-shirts, Abdullah, and they wear that t-shirt to the toilet, they may be of name of Allah. Okay, take it off when you go to the toilet. At the back, there are big writings, Abdullah or Muhammad. Don't go, this is Be'adbi. If Allah's name is hidden, like it's in a ta'weez which you're wearing, or it's in a paper which is inside the pocket, it's not seen, right? Then it's okay to go in the toilet without. You don't need to take it out all the time. But ring or something on which Allah's name is visible, you must take it off. Ji.
Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu had it after him
Hadith, well, he was sitting on the well of Hadith and he was just playing around with the ring, right? That ring which had Muhammad Rasulullah on it, right? Khulafai Rashidin used it, but then he fell in that well. And Hazrat Umar was really scared. And he, got people and he kept looking for it. The whole well water was taken out to the bottom, but he couldn't find it. Hazrat Uthman was really, really sad that Rasulullah's ring on which Muhammad Rasulullah is now lost. And they say that Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah Alayhi says, इसके बाद फितन और हवादिस शुरू हो गए. After that, fitnas and hawadis started, and infighting and other fitnas started after that. Due to the barakat of that ring of Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Allah had protected from fitnas. Chaliye.
The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam wore it on his right hand or left hand. Whoever saw it in a particular state described him accordingly.
Both riwayats are there, right and left. Chaliye.
He Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam saw it.
Imam Nawawi said दोनों में बिला कराहत जायज है. Malikiya said yasar is afzal. Hazrat Shaykh said यमीन वाली रिवायत राजा है. वकील अक्सर यमीन में पहन देते, कभी कभी यसार में. For Hanafiya, Shafi'iyya said yasar is afzal, left is afzal. Some Hanafiya said both hands are right. Chaliye.
The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had swords, the grips of which were made of silver. They were made by the Banu Hanifa tribe.
Meaning where you hold it from, right? If there is silver around it, then there is no harm in there. Because silver looks beautiful, right? So it's just to make an adornment. That sword was nice, beautiful, sharp, and it was beautified by that silver. The way you hold it, that was from metal. Because silver is soft, it bends. Metal doesn't bend. The holding place was from metal, but around it there was a circle and a little bit on the top, and that was made from silver. Chaliye. They were made from Banu Hanifa tribe. Chaliye. Sheikh Yunus Sahib mentioned some names of the swords which he had. Ma'thur, which he got in Wirathat from his father, inheritance. Qadib, Qal'i, Tabar, and Zulfiqar, which he got in the Battle of Badr. Chaliye. Armor, you have to wear armor when you go in the battlefield. Like today they wear bulletproof jackets. So this was like the bulletproof jacket.
He would wear armor in battle. In the Battle of Uhud, he wore 2 coats of armor, one on top of the other.
This is not against tawakkul. Right? Don't try to be over mutawakkil. I just go in the battlefield, nothing's going to happen. Nahi bhai, use the asbab and means. Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used 2 armors when he was in Battle of Uhud. He was the greatest mutawakkil. But still, he used the means. So, and there's names of Zirah as well. 7 Zirah. He had 7 armors. Dhatul Fudul, which was Wasi' and Chaudi. Number 2, Dhatul Hawashi, Dhatul Vishah, Fidda, Sa'diyya, Tabrar, and Kharnaq. Chaliye.
This is helmet. He also wore a helmet. It is what is worn to cover the head over the cap. He entered Mecca on the day of victory wearing it.
He was wearing helmet on the day of Mecca. Now question arises that in Mecca when you go you should be wearing ihram. Right? And he was wearing helmet. Zuhri said, Lam yakun yawma'idin muhriman. On the day of Fath Makkah, he was not in the state of ihram. Hanafiya, there's ikhtilaf there. Hanafiya say that if outsider, stranger goes to Makkah, then he must wear ihram. Whether he has intention of Umrah or not. Right? When you cross the miqat, you have to be in the state of ihram. Shafi'iyya say that you don't have to, you can go to in Makkah without ihram as well if you're not going for Umrah. They say this hadith is the dalil that on Fateh Makkah, Huzur Akram sallallahu alayhi wasallam was not wearing ihram. Hanafiya give jawab to this that on that day of Fateh Makkah, the necessity of ihram was lifted for a little while. Okay? He said in the hadith, إِنَّهَا أُحِلَّتْ لِي سَاعَةً مِّن نَهَارٍ. It was allowed for me for a moment of the day. لَمْ تَحِلَّ لِأَحَدٍ قَبْلِي وَلَا تَحِلُّ لِأَحَدٍ بَعْدِي. This is the reason behind it. Wallahu a'lam. So if you go to Makkah Sharif, you have to put the 2 sheets, garments of, on which are of ihram. चलिए,
His sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's turban. He entered Mecca wearing a black turban. He wore it.
there are 5 hadiths in this chapter. Nabi Pak sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to wear turban, okay, and he was wearing black turban at the sermon of khutbah. This was in Fatih Makkah, on the doorstep of Kaaba Sharif. चलिए,
When he wore a turban, he would keep the ends of the turban between his shoulders.
most of the time he would keep a loose end between his 2 shoulders. It's called shamla in Urdu. Sometimes he would wear without shamla as well. And both ways are narrated. You can leave that shamla at the back, or you can bring it towards the front on your right side as well. चलिए,
He delivered a sermon wearing an oily band on his head. His color was stained with grease because he used a lot of oil on his noble head.
this was in his last illness, Maradul Wafat, right? He had real bad headache, some oil massaged on him, and he was wearing tied a piece of cloth around his head when he came to give that khutbah. That is what mentioned over here. How big was his imamah? One riwayat in Tabrani says it was sab'atu adru'ain, 7 zira, 7 handspan. And Nawawi rahmatullah alayhi said he had 2 imamas, Saghira and Kabira. Saghira was 6 arms length, and one call is 7, and the other Kabira was 12 arms length, 12 zira. Zira is from the fingers to the elbow, that's called 1 zira, right? So 12 zira was the larger one, and 6 or 7 zira was the smaller one. Ji.
His sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's waist wrap.
Hazrat Sheikh Zakaria said, Imama bandna sunnati mustamirra hai. Wearing imama is sunnati mustamirra. Nabi Pak sallallahu alayhi wasallam said in one hadith, ta'ammumu tahlumu. Wear imama, you will get forbearance in you. You will become a forbearing person. Imama will bring hilm in you. Ibn Umar radiyallahu anhu was asked, at-ta'ammum sunnatul? And he said, na'am. In one riwayat, Allama Aini said, Islam ka nishan hai. Imama is the nishani and a sign of Islam. So wear imama. Imama, turban. Sorry, I didn't translate imama. Turban. We're talking about turban. Turban is a great sunnat of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam. चलिए.
His waist wrapper is up.
हाँ. Waist wrapper izar आम आदत शरीफा लुंगी पहनने की थी. और Bengali हजरात wear lungi all the time. It's good. Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam sunnat. I wear it with the niyat of sunnat. You will get thawab in wearing the lungi as well. So he would normally wear lungi. Trousers, he did wear. There is a bit of ikhtilaf in there. Abu Dawud narrated it. Allama Bayjuri rahmatullahi alayhi said that wearing is not proven, only buying is proven. But ulama say that he bought it to wear it, so he must have worn it. And Sahaba used to wear it, and that was through his permission. So there is no harm in wearing trousers. Lungi is good, but trousers, pajamas is also good, no problem, no harm in there. They conceal our satar properly, so it's okay to wear them. Unless, they expose the satar, like tight jeans, then in that case you should try and avoid it. Chaliye.
It is what covers the lower part of the body, as opposed to the cloak, which is for the upper part. He had a patched cloak and thick waist wrapper, which he was wearing when he passed away.
Hazrat Rahmatullah alayhi said, सादा मोटा कपड़ा पसंद था. हजरत मदनी खड्डर का कपड़ा पहनते थे. हजरत गंगोही मताब दर खशिन story. चलिए.
His lower garment reached the middle of his calves. He sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, this is more clean and more rewarding.
जी. अतयबु व अतहरु, more clean, because if he goes below the ankles, what's going to happen? He's going to sweep the street, and your trousers or your jubba will become dirty at the lower end. So don't wear it below the ankles. Wear it above the ankles. And he said this is more clean and more rewarding. Chaliye.
He forbade anyone from lengthening it to the bottom, i.e. beyond the ankle.
Ji, this is for men. Okay. Women can lower it a little bit below the ankles as well in order to cover their feet. Okay. And women should also avoid tight clothings, like tight jeans or leggings, right? And this type of libas, because it reveals the satar and the legs which should be covered. Right? Wear loose clothing. like our, shalwar qameez, that is better, or long jubba when going outside to cover the whole body. Chaliye.
His manner of walking,
Sallallahu alayhi wasallam.
when he walked, it was as if the earth was rolled up for him. The companion says that they would tire themselves.
These companions, Abu Hurairah, radiyallahu anhu. Ji.
I put themselves to difficulty due to his exerted quick pace. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam would not be fatigued.
Ji.
When he walked, he leaned and lifted his feet with vigor, as if he was descending to low ground.
Ji. This is very clear. Chaliye.
This sallallahu alaihi wasallam's head covering. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam used a lot of oil and feared that it would stain his turban, so he would place a cloth between his head and his turban.
Yeah, meaning he was covered his head most of the time. Very seldom was his head exposed. Right? There is a riwayat which says, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يكثر القناع كأن ثوبه ثوب زيات. Okay? He would cover his head. He would have a covering on his head. Many times he used to wear a tobi, right? Cap, one. And then he would wear a turban on the tobi. Okay? And then he would wear this is called qina. This shimagh. He would wear this shimagh as well. So there's three sunnats: topi, imama, and a shimagh. Right? Try and follow all three sunnats. The more closer to sunnat, the more sawab you will get. Okay? In the hadith of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, at the time of Hijrat, Aisha radiallahu anha says, Nabi Pak sallallahu alayhi wasallam came towards our house. He was covering his head with the qina, with the shimagh. It was midday. And this protected him from the heat of the afternoon, the midday heat. So they would wear it. It was their habit to wear and cover their head. Because the heat strikes on the nape. So when you cover that, you don't get a heat stroke. So they used to cover that area by covering themselves. So it's sunnah to cover the head. This is the normal practice of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ibn al-Qayyim rahmatullah alayhi has written in Zadul Ma'ad that Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam sometimes wore imama on a cap. Sometimes he wore imama without a cap. And sometimes he would wear a cap without imama. All three are narrated from Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Abu Shaykh narrated that Nabi Pak sallallahu alayhi wasallam had three topis, three caps. One was white, the other was black, and the other had two flaps which would cover his ears. He would wear that in battles. He would wear that cap and then wear the helmet on top of that to protect his head. So he used to wear topi most of the times. Try and wear topi and cover your head. Right? It's sunnat to wear topi and cover the head. Chaliye.
This sallallahu alaihi wasallam sitting. He would squat on his knees, on his heels, and clasp his knees with his arms, and that was how he usually sat. Sometimes he would lie down in the mosque with one foot over the other.
Ji. So he would sit with his knees raised up, right, and his feet on the ground, his bottom on the ground. When he would be sitting sometimes, and he would hold his knees like this in majalis. This is called habwa. So many times he would sit in the state of habwa. Okay? बिठा के दिखाओ मौलाना साहब, you're sitting on the ground. Yeah. समझ में आ गया ना? ये this is called habwa. In this manner, bottom on the ground, 2 feet on the ground, and both hands folded and holding the front calves. Barabar? समझ में आ गया ना? This is called habwa. Like this brother is sitting here. So many times he would sit like this. Number 2, the second hadith says he was lying in the masjid and he would put one foot on the other. This is when you stretch the foot, right? And then put one foot on top of the other, both feet stretched, right? He wouldn't stretch them towards the qibla because you have to respect and do adab of the qibla. But on other directions, it is allowed. So you stretch your feet, put one top of the other, relax, that's okay. Okay? Another way is disliked. That is when you fold a knee up and you put one foot on top of the other knee, right? He would not allow that because that would expose the satar. Someone coming from there would be able to see your satar. So that would not be allowed. Do you understand both conditions? One is both legs stretched, one on top of the other. Nobody can see your satar. The other is you lift your knee up, foot on the ground, and you put the other foot on top of the left knee, for example. So your sadr is exposed. That he said he didn't like that. He forbid that. Chaliye.
So what is leaning? He would lean on cushion sometimes on his left and sometimes on his right, which was more common.
He would lean. He would like leaning on the cushions when sitting down, talking. Many hadiths say with regards to this. For example, the hadith of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. ألا أنبئكم بأكبر الكبائر الإشراك بالله وعقوق الوالدين والمسلمين ثم جلس وكان متكئا فقال ألا وقول الزور ألا وقول الزور ألا وقول الزور. Shall I tell you the greatest of major sins? Shirk billah. And abusing, insulting Muslim parents. And he was leaning on some pillow and he sat up straight and then he said, Ala wa qawlu zur, ala wa qawlu zur, ala wa qawlu zur. Listen carefully. Telling lies is also a major sin. Telling lies is also a major sin. Telling lies is also a major sin. So he was leaning at that time and then he sat up straight. So he would lean on cushions and pillows. Chaliye.
He forbade anyone from eating whilst reclining, and he would not do this.
Reclining, he wouldn't eat whilst reclining. He would not do that himself. Because this is against tawadhu and humility. Okay? Humility is when you sit up and then eat. To recline and then keep eating, gobbling up, munching. No, he didn't like that. Also, when you are reclining on something, right? And you keep eating, right? Like, let's say many people watch movies, reclining on sofas, and they munching popcorn and peanuts. They don't know how much they've eaten, right? You eat a lot when you're reclining, but when you're sitting up, you eat less. That's why he used to sit straight and then eat. He wouldn't eat or drink anything whilst reclining onto something. So it's against tawadhu and humility, and it makes you eat more. That's why he wouldn't recline and eat. He would say, La akulu muttakiyan. And number 3, this is the habit of mutakabbirin. Mutajabbirin, the kings and the rulers, the proud and haughty would eat like that. And he was a humble person, so he would eat with humility and humbleness. Chaliye.
When he was ill and wanted to go out, he leant on one.
You know our Hazrat Shaykh Zakaria Nawarallahu Mulkadahu. He was 86 years old. How old? When he came here in England in Darul Uloom Bari in 1981. And his khadim came to give him some medicine. And Hazrat, he couldn't move himself. So he was made to rest on a pillow, lying down, and the khadim was going to give him the medicine. And the Shaykh said, no, make me sit up. So the khadim held him, made him sit up straight, and then he took that medicine. And he said, it's against sunnah to eat or drink whilst you're lying down or reclining. This is our mashayikh's ittiba of sunnat. May Allah give us that tawfiq as well. Chaliye.
When he was ill and wanted to go out, he leant on one of his companions, like
leaning. When he was ill and wanted to go out, he would lean on someone. Ji.
Like Sayyidina Usama or Sayyidina Ibn Abbas, and also Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu.
Ji.
How the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam ate and the description of his beard. His bread. When he finished eating, he would lick his fingers 3 times, and he licked his 3 fingers because he usually ate with 3. So
after you finish eating, you should lick your fingers. Because al-barakatu fi akhir al-ta'am. Barakat is in the last part of the food. And whatever is stuck to your fingers, that rice or that masala or that piece of meat, there's barakat in there. You don't know in which there is barakat. So eat it as well. Clean your fingers properly. Right? Clean your plate properly. Clean the bowl properly. I saw my Hazrat Maulana Mutala Sahib rahmatullah alayhi. In one place we were in Dawat, and he was given some custard in a bowl, dessert at the end. So he ate it with a spoon, and when he finished, he put the spoon down and he licked the whole bowl with his finger, and the bowl was as clean as he was washed. You would think that it's been washed, it's clean. So this is how you should clean everything. Don't leave anything for the shaitan. Right? Clean your plates, clean your bowls, clean your fingers, and wipe everything, wash everything properly. Chaliye.
He once ate dates while leaning against the wall due to intense hunger.
Intense hunger. So he was leaning to the wall because he couldn't stand straight. So where there is necessity, you can lean on something when you're eating as well. Chaliye.
He mostly ate barley bread.
Barley bread. Barley. We eat wheat bread. Or chawal, rice. But he used to eat barley bread. Barley is a bit thick and coarse as well. But that was his normal khorak and food. Chaliye.
There would be no leftovers in his household because of the scarcity of food.
Chaliye.
they did not have sieves, but rather they would blow on the barley and the chaff would fly from it. It would then be kneaded into dough. He did not eat from a table with legs, which is called a hewan.
Table of legs like this table. He never ate on a table or chair, or table with legs like your patla, right? He would not eat on patlas like this, put food in there and then, mashallah, he would be enjoying the food, right? He would eat like a simple person. The table spread would be spread on the floor, and from there he would eat the food. Chaliye?
Not from small vessels, usually used.
Not from a small vessel like small bowls like this, right? Small, 5-10 bowls and all have different dishes. No, he would eat in a big tray and he would call everyone, Ajao bhai, everybody join in, and everybody would join in that food with him. Ji.
He did not eat to his fill of bread and meat twice in a day. He never ate to his
Meaning we eat how many times a day? 3, 4, 5? Breakfast, and brunch, lunch, tea time, dinner. He never ate twice in a day, only once in a day. If he ate in the afternoon, he would in the evening. If in the evening, he would in the afternoon. Chaliye?
He never ate to his fill of barley bread for 2 consecutive days until he died.
He preferred this life. He had everything under his control, but he preferred this life. Chaliye?
This is all Islam's condiments.
Condiments meaning salad. What type of salads he ate? Chaliye?
He would say the best condiment is vinegar.
Because the aim of a salad is to get the roti or the bread down the throat, ease its swallowing. Why do we put margarine on the bread? Because if we add the bread without margarine, then it would stick in the throat, right? We have to drink some water or something to swallow it. But if there's margarine on it, then you can swallow it easily. That's why we put butter or jam or margarine on the bread. So when he would want to eat bread, he would dip it in the vinegar and then eat it, and he would say, Ni'mal idamul khallu. Sirka, vinegar is a very good condiment, very good salad. It helps to ease the swallowing of the bread. And he would like vinegar. Vinegar is good. There's so many benefits in vinegar. You read books on vinegar, you realize those benefits of the vinegar. All types of vinegars are allowed. White vinegar, spirit vinegar, because the mahiyat has changed, so you can use that vinegar. Don't be bothered about where it's made from. Whether it's made from grapes or khajur or wine, or don't worry about it. Once the mahiyat is changed, you're okay to use it. Chaliye?
He would eat chicken. He ate the meat of bustards, hubara. He said, consume olive oil and apply it as it is from a blessed tree.
كلوا الزيت وادهنوا به فإنه من شجرة مباركة. Eat zaytun tail and do malish of it, right? Because it is from a barakati tree. So olive oil, especially, that extra virgin olive oil is really good. We should eat, we should drink that. If you have, diabetes and you take 1 large tablespoon of olive oil every morning, inshallah your sugar level will come down. It's very effective. Also for cholesterol, high cholesterol, 1 cup of hot water with 1 spoon apple cider vinegar, 1 spoon zaytun ka tel, olive oil, and 1 spoon honey. Mix it, drink it every morning, first thing in the morning before you eat anything, and your cholesterol will come down, inshallah. So mujarrab, I drink it every day. Chaliye? Experience, alhamdulillah. Doctor, he checked my cholesterol once, it was so high, and he called me again, he said, you have to give another blood test. So after 1 month, I did this every day without fail. Next time I went, he said, your cholesterol is very good, you're doing good exercise. I knew how much exercise I was doing. Yeah.
He would like God a lot and would seek it out.
Kaddu. He liked kaddu a lot. Ji.
He would seek it out from the sides of the platter. It would be prepared especially out of his honor. This Lord loved sweets, halwa, and honey.
Loved के बजाय यहाँ है ना युहिब्बु का तर्जुमा like करना चाहिए. He liked sweet halwa because he was not really fond of. He wouldn't love food, right? He would like things. So he said, the hadith says, كان يحب الحلوى أو العسل. He liked halwa and asal. Sheikh said, halwa is made from atta and shahad. Shakar का उस ज़माने में रिवाज नहीं था. There was no sugar in those days, so they would make sweet dish from flour and honey. So this is like soji, which we make in our home, something like that. There's flour in there and some sweet in there. He would like that sweet dish. Chaliye.
The Prophet ﷺ was offered the meat of roasted side and ate from it. He did not consider eating what was cooked by fire to break wudu. Thus he prayed without renewing wudu.
He liked meat of roasted side. You know, a goat, a roasted shoulder or roasted leg. Right? He would like that meat and he would eat from there. Like in barbecue, we eat sometimes chicken legs. So he would eat that type of meat. He would like it. And if he had ate that type of meat, he would not consider his wuzu to be broken and he would have to renew the wuzu. No. In the beginning, he did say, if you eat something like this, then do wuzu again. But later on in his life, this was abrogated and you don't need to redo your wuzu. Chaliye.
Sometimes he took a knife and cut the meat with his own hand.
This is when the meat was a bit raw. He would use the knife to cut it. And if it was properly cooked, he would take the bone and bite it with his teeth. He would say bite with the teeth because that is more tastier. And it is more easier in swallowing and digesting the food. So if it's cooked properly, then you can bite it with the teeth. Like you take chicken leg and bite it, it tastes more better. So he said bite it with your teeth. But if it's raw, then cut it with a knife and then eat it. Chaliye.
His favorite meat was the shoulder, which he would tear with his teeth. He would increase for the Prophet ﷺ, even if it was a little. He would prefer tharid, which is
meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would put barakah in it.
He would prefer tharid, which is broth containing pieces of bread over all of the foods.
He would prefer tharid over all of the foods. Because tharid, it's got roti in there, bread in there, and it's got the soup in there, and it's got meat in there as well. So it's not time consuming. You can eat it quickly. Right? You don't have to break the bread or dip it into the salan and then eat it and again and again. It takes a lot of time. And plus it's more tastier as well. Especially if you put a little bit of vinegar in the tharid and then you eat it, it's very tasty. So he preferred tharid over other foods.
He had a wedding feast walima when he married Sayyidina Safiya radiallahu anha, which consisted of dates and sawiq, wheat or barley, which is fried and then ground, and to which fat and honey is added.
This was his walima feast because he was in the safar journey at that time, and that's what was available. There was no meat, no rice, no bread. This is what was available, and he did the walima with the sawiq. Sawiq is explained what it is.
He liked it when barley was ground and put in a pot with some oil, crushed pepper and spices poured on top. He liked to eat it and thought it excellent. Fruit which, such as fresh dates, was served to him on a platter. He took fresh dates from hanging bunches, but forbade Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu from eating the dates with him because he had an eye infection. He told him to eat from what was presented to them of chard and barley.
This was one incident when Hazrat Ali and Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam went to some place. They had some dawat, and they used to hang, bunches of dates, like bunch of grapes. And when a mehman would enter, they would eat from that bunch. So Hazrat Ali was with him. Huzur started eating from the bunch of khajur dates. Hazrat Ali also started eating from there. Prophet ﷺ said, Ya Ali, innaka naqihun. Stop, don't eat it. You just recovered from your illness. You still got fever. Your body is hot. And khajur makes you even hotter. So avoid that. So he told him to stop. And everybody else with Nabi Pak ate from the dates, and Hazrat Ali Karamallahu wajhahu refrained. Then when the food was prepared, there was beetroot in there and some chard and some masala in there. And Nabi Pak said to Ali, Ali, eat from this. This is good for you. Because beetroot's effects are cold. It cools the body down. So he said, eat this. This is good for you. This is why we say to the university students, youngsters, don't eat too much hot food. Right? Too many kebabs, burgers, masalas, right? And too many khajurs, badam, pista, chilhoza, akhrot, right? Almonds, pistachios. They are hot for the body. They heat up the body. When the body is heated up, excitement and passion is built. And it might urge you to do nauzubillah zina, fornication, right? So keep your body cool by eating cucumber, lettuce, yogurt, right? Kharbuza, watermelon. These things keep the body cool. Right? Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam once had a date in his hand and kharbuza, watermelon, in the other. He was eating the date and he was eating the kharbuza and he was saying, Yuksaru harru hada bibardi hada. The heat of this will be balanced by the cold of this. Khajur is hot and watermelon is cold. So you keep your belly temperature balanced. Don't heat it up too much. Don't cool it down too much. If it cools down too much, you'll get nazla, zukham, and cold and flu and runny nose. So don't let your body cool down too much. Don't heat it up too much. Keep it balanced. Okay? There's a story there as well, but I don't have time for it. Chaliye?
He would go to Sayyidina Aisha.
Shall I tell you? One Arab friend came to my house as a mehman. And he was not, into spicy food. But we had cooked spicy food, I didn't know. So bichara, my friend, he ate it. It was the first time he had come, the first time I was meeting as well through someone else. So he ate the food, it was nice. After finishing the food, he mentioned the story. That once this ship sunk in the ocean or large river, a crocodile came, right? He saw an American, he ate the American. Then he came again, he saw a British, he ate the British as well. And then he came for a third time, there was an Asian, and he ran off. Someone asked the crocodile, why did you run off? He said, 1 month ago I ate an Asian, my heart is still burning. We eat too much spices and too much masala, we have to give that up. Chaliye.
He would go to Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu anha. If he found that she did not have food, he would say, I am fasting. He once went to her when she had been given some hais, which is unmixed dates and fat. She says that he ate after he had been fasting because a person observing voluntary fasts is in command of himself.
Ji. Chalo bol clear hai hadith. Aage padho jaldi. From the hadith of Sayyidina Ali Karamullah Wajhu, don't eat the dates and eat from the barley and the beetroot. What do we understand from there? Parhezi. Prevention is better than cure. If you have diabetes or cholesterol or this or that, and the doctors tell you to avoid sugary stuff and fried foods, then avoid it. Alright? Little bit is okay, but don't eat too much of it. Right? So where you are told to stop eating something, you should try and stop and look after your body. Al-wiqayatu khayrun min al-ilaj. Chaliye.
Sometimes he took a piece of barley bread, put a date on it, and he ate it, and saying, this is the condiment for this. He would like leftovers, i.e. what remained of food at the bottom of the pot.
हज़रत शेख यूनुस साहब रहमतुल्लाह अलैहि से खुलासा ये है कि आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम को अच्छा खाना अच्छा लगता था, खाकर अल्लाह का शुक्र करते थे. कुल मन हर्रम ज़ीनत अल्लाह अल्लती अखरज लिइबादिही वत्तय्यिबाति मिनर रिज़्क़. Our Hazrat Maulana Yusuf Mutala Sahab रहमतुल्लाह अलैहि said that सरकार की सीरत का ये पहलू भी बयान करना चाहिए. हर वक्त मुश्किली वाली जिंदगी बयान करना नहीं चाहिए ताकि लोगों के दिल में नफरत पैदा ना हो. नबी पाक सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम सीरत has this side as well. He used to like good food, good clothes, good life. We should narrate that to people as well. We shouldn't always talk about his zuhud and abstinence and avoiding food and all that, because some people might feel odd. He had both sides. He ate good food, drank good drinks, and he liked good food. He would do shukr of Allah, show his gratitude and thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the good food as well. Chaliye.
The wudu of Messenger of Allah
Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Wudu, meaning washing hands before and after eating, gargling the mouth. He would wash his hands, gargle the mouth, and then he would sit down to eat. And even after finishing, he would wash hands again. There's barakat in there. This is mentioned here. Chaliye.
The Prophet ﷺ came out after relieving himself, where after food was presented to him, they asked, shall we not bring you water for wudu?
Water for wudu. This was water for which wudu? Shari'i wudu. The one we do for namaz. Right? They said this is water, you make wudu with it. Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said wudu is for namaz, not for eating. I'm only eating, I'm not going to pray namaz. So he didn't do wudu of this type. Ji.
He replied, I have only been commanded to perform wudu for prayer.
Ji.
Next
hadith is about washing hands. Ji.
Washing the hands before eating is sunnah. Sayyidina Salman al-Farsi radiallahu anhu said, I read in the Torah that the blessing of food is what is washing after it. I mentioned that to the Prophet ﷺ, and he said the blessing of food is washing before and after it.
Before and after. Sheikh Yunus Sahib said, Mustahabbun indal jumhur mutlaqan. Washing hands before eating food is mustahab according to Jumhur ulama kiram. Is desirable. We should wash our hands before eating and after eating as well. Even if your hands are clean, still wash them. Unless you've just gone to the wuzu khana, done wuzu, then that's okay. Your hands have just been washed. You don't have to rewash them. But if you haven't done wuzu in the closer time, on wash your hands before eating. Chaliye.
What the Prophet ﷺ said before and after eating.
His du'as. Parlo du'as. Memorize these du'as. Ji.
He would always start with the basmala. Once a man.
Basmala, bismillahi, wa ala barakatillah.
Once a man ate and did not say it, so there was a shortage of food in the food. He said, I mentioned the name of Allah when we began to eat. That is why there was blessing at that time. Then he said, he who eats without saying the name of Allah, the devil eats with him.
Shaitan, devil eats with him, either on haqiqat and reality. And this is not impossible because the devil does take part in our foods. And Jumhur ulama say it's mahmul on haqiqat and reality. There is no reason to deny it. Chaliye.
He also said, when one of you eats and forgets to mention Allah over his food, he should say Bismillah awwalan wa akhirah.
Bismillah in the beginning and its ending. Chaliye.
Sayyidina Umar ibn Abi Salama radiallahu anhu came to the Prophet and had some food with him. He said, come near my son and say the name of Allah, the Most High, eat with your right hand and eat from what is in front of you.
Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullahi alayhi writes, Basmala is sunnat. Akal bil yameen is sunnat. Indal jumhur. Some say it's wajib. And number 3, akal mimma indahu is sunnat. Some said that's also wajib. Chaliye.
After eating, the Prophet ﷺ will say, Alhamdulillah alladhi at'amana wa saqana wa ja'alana muslimin.
This is shukr on the ni'mat-e zahira and ni'mat-e batina. Food is ni'mat-e zahira. So he said, Alhamdulillah, all praise is due for Allah who fed us and who gave us to drink. And waja'alana muslimin, and who made us Muslims. This is the batini ni'mat, internal ni'mat, the spiritual ni'mat. So he gave us the external blessing and the internal blessing. We praise him for that.
When the tablecloth was removed from in front of him, he would say, Alhamdulillah alladhi hamdan kathiran tayyiban mubarakan fihi ghayra makfiyin wala muwadda'in wala mustaqim.
Praise belongs to Allah with abundant, blessed, excellent praise, never abandoned and indispensable. Our Lord. Our Lord means Ya Rabbana. Oh our Rabb, accept our praise and hamd from us.
This is his cups.
He
had a cup of made thick wood bound with an iron rim to prevent it from breaking. He would drink water, nabil, honey and milk from it.
Meaning he had the same cup for everything. Unlike us, we have cup for water and drink, cup for tea and milk, a glass, a bowl for soup and a plate for food. He never had different, utensils for different stuff. He had one cup, one bowl, and in that he drank everything: honey, milk, water, nabis, everything from the same cup.
This is Allah's fruit.
He would like fruit. What types of fruit he ate?
He would eat qitha, a type of cucumber with dates.
Type of cucumber, qissa. Cucumber, but sweet cucumber. Is available in Medina Sharif. Khira. It's like watermelon. Right? Chaliye.
He would eat melon with fresh dates.
Chaliye. Melon with fresh dates. You see? One is cold, the other is hot. The balance is made in the stomach.
When people would see the first dates of the season, they would present them to the Prophet
ﷺ. Quickly, when they would ripe, they would bring it to the Prophet ﷺ first to gain his du'as.
When he took them, he said, Oh Allah, bless us in our fruits and bless us in our city, bless us in our sa' and in our mud. Oh Allah, Ibrahim was your slave, friend and prophet. He prayed to you from Mecca, and I prayed to you from Medina with the like of what he prayed for Mecca and the like of that with it. He would then call the youngest child he saw and give him that date.
Yeah, because children are normally, fond of eating fruits, and they would want to eat that grape and that date quickly, so Huzur would give them first. And secondly, the child is small, the fruit is also fresh of the season, there is munasabat between the two. Right? That's why he would give the children first, and then when more comes, he would eat himself. So it would be very nice with the kids. Ji.
The drink of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam,
Ah.
his favorite drink was that which.
For a favorite drink, meaning the one which he liked most, chaliye, which was cold and sweet. All right, drink should be cold and sweet, right? Sweet, not sour like Fanta, Dr Pepper. I don't know how people drink Dr Pepper. Chaliye.
When he drank, he preferred those on his right side and said, the right to drink is yours. And he said, if Allah gives someone food, he should say, Allahumma barik lana fihi wa at'imna khayran minhu. If he gives someone milk to drink, he would say, Allahumma barik lana fihi wa zidna minhu. He said that
For samosas, kebabs, burgers, right? What do you say? Allahumma barik lana fihi wa at'imna khayran minhu. Give us barakat in this and give us better than this. Better than this biryani, rice, salan. But when you drink milk, what do you say? Allahumma barik lana fihi wa zidna minhu. Give us barakat in the milk and give us more of milk. Why? Because milk is for both. It's for quenching the thirst because it's liquid like water, and it's for filling the belly because it provides the nourishment and the vitamins which are needed for the body. So milk has both in it. As it only fills the stomach, it doesn't quench the thirst, and water only quenches the thirst, it doesn't fill up the stomach. So this is why he said for other things, at'imna khayran minhu, but for milk, wazidna minhu. Chaliye.
he said there is nothing which is equivalent to both food and drink except milk.
Ji.
How the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam drank.
Ah.
He would drink both standing and sitting.
This is a little bit kalam over here. Chaliye. He would drink both standing and sitting. This standing drink is makhsus for Zamzam water and remainder of wuzu water, as mentioned in the other hadith. His normal habit would be to sit down and drink. In fact, in some riwayat, he forbade drinking while standing. He said, sit down and then drink. There are reasons behind it. Ibn al-Qayyim mentioned those reasons in Zadul Ma'ad. Chaliye.
He would take 2 or 3 breaths when drinking from a vessel and say it is more pleasant and satisfying.
Yeah, so don't drink in one sip. But Alhamdulillah. 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 You started with Bismillah, I'm sorry. You start with Bismillah, end with Alhamdulillah. And 3 sips. You can take more as well, right? 5, 7, 9. Sometimes we need more sips, no problem, but minimum 3 sips. Okay? Sometimes the glass is small and you need to drink more water. What do? Like in Zamzam. Maulana Saifur Rahman Sahab asked Hazrat Sheikh Rahmatullah alayh, that Hazrat, this drinking with 3 sips, is it 3 sips in one glass or 3 sips in one thirst? And Hazrat Sheikh replied, 3 sips in one thirst. So if you are intending to drink 3 glasses, then one glass will be 1 sip, second glass will be 2nd sip, and third glass will be 3rd sip. You don't have to take 3 sips in every glass. It's connected to one thirst. When you're thirsty and you drink, then 3 sips in that during that drinking. Chaliye.
He drank from the mouth of a water skin whose mouth was cut off for the blessing.
This is Qissa of Sulaim. He drank from a water carrier, a pitcher, right? So other Sulaim cut that out. He said, I don't want anybody to stain and soil that place where the blessed mouth of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam had touched. This was the Sahaba's ishq and love for Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Chaliye.
The perfume of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He had a perfume made from something black, sukkah, mixed with musk, or he had a perfume container from which he applied perfume.
This is the hadith where he had ukka. And what is the meaning of ukka? 2 tafsils mentioned over here. One container in which he kept his perfume, and from there he would apply the perfume. Like this is the container from there. Today these perfumes are in liquid form. In those days they were in liquid form as well, and they were in the form of solid as well. Like you get those musk kasturis, right? So he would use both types of perfumes, and he liked perfume. And his sweat was naturally fragranced, like we read in the next hadith. Chaliye.
He said he said there are three things which are not refused.
Well, the hadith is not here, it's another place. Chaliye, we did this first.
Cushions, oil, i.e. perfume, and milk.
If someone offers you some ether and perfume, don't refuse it. Take it. Okay? Now, sometimes if someone offers you perfume, but you get a headache with that perfume, what do? Hadith says you can't refuse it. Right? And you're going to get a headache. Right? Maulana Bilal Sahib said, let him put it on you and put it behind your back. So you don't get any smell of it. And number two, I would say that the perfume should not be rejected when it is a perfume. It is khushbu. If it gives you a headache, it is not khushbu, it is badbu for you. And you can refuse badbu. You can say, I'm sorry, bhai, this is too strong. I will get a headache, I will get a migraine attack with it. I don't want a migraine attack. Jazakallah, thank you very much. Smell it first. If it's okay for you, use it. If it's not, then you can say, Jazakallah, thank you so much. But I can't, I don't want to get migraine attack. Chaliye?
How the Prophet ﷺ spoke.
Now about the natural perfume, Sulaim says once Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was doing qaylula at her house and he was sweating. So his sweat, she started collecting it in a small bottle because he was sleeping on a leather spread. And on the leather spread, the sweat was slowly dripping. So she collected it in a bottle. Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam woke up and he said, what are you doing, Sulaim? And he said, I'm collecting your sweat. And we mixed your sweat into the fragrance of ours, and your perspiration is the best of fragrance. When Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would wipe his hand over a child, and the child would walk around, people could tell throughout the whole day until the end of the day that Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam wiped his hand over the head of this child. If he passed by a gully, an alleyway, people could tell that he's been through this alleyway because of the khushbu and perfume of Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Chaliye?
When he would speak clearly with making his words distinct so that those sitting with him could memorize them.
He would not jumble up his words where anybody could understand. He would speak clearly and he would speak slowly where those listening can understand, absorb, memorize, remember. That's why we get so many hadiths of his from Abu Hurairah and everyone, 30,000-40,000 hadith. How did they memorize all that? Because he used to speak slowly and they were able to learn and memorize everything he said. Chaliye?
He would repeat a statement 3 times where necessary so that it would be
3 times where necessary. Okay? Not all the time. Sometimes where it was necessary, he would repeat it 3 times. Like we just read, Allah wa qawlu zur, Allah wa qawlu zur, Allah wa qawlu zur. He repeated it 3 times. Gee.
He was constantly sorrowful.
Sorrowful in a sorrowful state. Why? Not for personal reasons. Right? He would just forgive and forget. But he was sorrowful over the state of the ummah. He would want everybody to get hidayat and come on the straight path and everybody to become good. He was so eager for everyone. That's what made him sad. He was worried, he was concerned about everyone. That's why he would remain in a sad and sorrowful state. Chaliye? At the same time, he was very cheerful as well. Right? He would hide all his agonies. He would smile with everyone he met. He was the most smiling person, as we will read in the hadith later on. Chaliye?
The Prophet ﷺ was always reflective and had no rest. He was silent for long periods and did not speak except when necessary. He used his entire mouth when speaking and did not confine himself to moving just his lips as those who are arrogant do. He used concise expressions, few words with much meaning. The words of the noble Prophet ﷺ distinguished between truth and falsehood, and he did not go beyond the meaning he intended, nor fall short of conveying it. He did not have a coarse nature. He did not demean those who accompanied him.
They're very clear.
He
Esteemed a blessing. When he got ni'mat kana yu'azzimu ni'mata wa in daqqat. Any ni'mat, whether even it's small, he would hold it in high esteem. It's Allah's ni'mat. It's a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He would appreciate the ni'mat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Even if it was small, and he did not criticize it at all. He did not criticize food or praise it. The world and temporal things related to it did not make him angry. If a right of Allah was violated, nothing stood against his anger until he had avenged it. He did not get angry for himself nor seek revenge. he pointed with his entire palm. When he expressed surprise, he turned his hand over. When he spoke, he struck his right palm on the inside of his left thumb. When he was angry, he turned away and frowned. His laughter, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he would relate an extraordinary account regarding
There is a little bit of addition over here as well. When he turned away, he did not pay attention to, the person. He just ignored. When he was happy, he would lower his gaze. Most of his laughter was in the form of a smile. The laugh of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was mostly a smile. At that moment, his Mubarak front teeth glittered like white shining hailstones. Chaliye. Next chapter padho unki.
his laughter. He would relate an extraordinary account regarding divine matters and laughed such that his molar showed his laughter was essentially smiled, and he smiled a lot.
Chaliye. Meaning he never did qahqaha. Qahqaha is loud, ha 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 ha, where your tonsils can be seen as well. Here the most was where his molar teeth would appear. That's all. That was his smile, and his most laugh was that much. No more than that. And he would smile a lot, mentioned here.
He smiled specifically at some of his companions whenever he saw them.
This is narrated by Jarir ibn Abdullah radiallahu anhu. ما حجبني رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم منذ أسلمت ولا رآني إلا تبسم في وجهي. Whenever he saw me, he smiled at me. Abdullah ibn al-Harith ibn Jaz said, ما رأيت أحدا أكثر تبسما من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. I've never seen anyone more smiling than Nabi Kareem صلى الله عليه وسلم. चलिए. Joking. Now Nabi Pak صلى الله عليه وسلم used to joke. He had a very good sense of humor with the Sahaba Ridwanullah alayhim ajma'in. One might ask over here, one hadith prohibits jokes. Narrated by Tirmidhi from Ibn Abbas that Prophet ﷺ prohibited jokes. How can we reconcile between both commands, joking and prohibition of jokes? Imam Nawawi rahmatullah alayhi says that we shouldn't joke in 4 cases. Number 1, excessive joking is prohibited. Number 2, where jokes keep a person away from dhikr of Allah. And number 3, where it is the means of troubling a Muslim person and putting him in difficulty, debasing, demeaning him, holding him in contempt, that will not be allowed. And number 4, where it may lessen the dignity of someone and degrade him. These 4 instances, Nawawi mentioned that it's not allowed to do this. And where it is mustahab is where the intention is to make someone happy. It will be mustahab. Nabi Pak sallallahu alayhi wasallam was a cheerful person. He had a very good sense of humor. This brought people closer to him. If he didn't do this, then his awe would have drawn people away from him. This is why he would often joke with his companions, joke with youngsters, sometimes joke with old lady, like we will read in the hadith here. Read the hadith.
He would say to Anas radiallahu anhu, "O you with 2 ears."
Yadal uzunayn. Now everybody has 2 ears, right? But he would say, Anas, Yadal uzunayn. Like when we sometimes say to each other, "Oi, your ear's fallen down." And he goes, "Where's my ear?" Then he says, "Oh, my ear is here." He was only joking. So Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam would say to Anas, Yadal uzunayn. But even in that joke, he was saying something truth. Why? Because Anas was a very clever child. He would listen very attentively and immediately he would do what he was told. He had sharp ears. He could hear everything what Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. So he meant to say, you are a very good child, you have very good sense of, listening and obeying. Chaliye.
The Prophet ﷺ said to a brother of Sayyidina Anas radiallahu anhu, who had a small bird, Abu Umair, what happened to the little bird? But in spite of his joking, he only spoke the truth.
Even in this instance, oh Abu Umair, what happened to Nughair? Right? Abu Umair, Hazrat Anas's younger brother, right? He had this bird named Nughair. Now the bird died. And kids, when their pet dies, they tend to cry a lot. right? Because of their love for that pet. So he was crying a lot. When Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would come, he would, tease him a little bit. Oh man, what happened to you, Nusratul? Yesterday died. Now, in that way, he would cheer him up a little bit. Like when we give some toffee after that. Chalo, chalo, parlo, le lo. So he would cheer up the child a little bit after this. And in that hadith, Muhaddiseen have taken about, many masail from that single hadith. One of the masla they took from there is that keeping a pet in Medina Sharif is allowed, not in Makkah. In Makkah, you can't catch a prey or keep a pet in a cage. Right? You can't keep a bird in a cage. In Makkah, all birds are free, all prey are free. Hudud haram. So it means that Makkah's hudud haram and Medina's hudud haram are different. The ahkam are different for both, not exactly the same. Imam Abu Hanifa took this masala from there with regards to ahkam of haram sharif. And Makkah's haram and Medina's haram are different. They're not identical. They're identical, same in matters of respect, but not all ahkam are same. Chaliye.
He said to an old woman who asked him about entering the garden, an old woman did not enter it. He meant that she would enter it as a young woman.
Chaliye. This young old lady came. Ya Rasulullah, make dua for me that I go in Jannah. And he saw that this is Boli Bhali Sidi Sadi lady. He said, nah, old ladies don't go in Jannah. And she started crying. She left. Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, go and tell her that you won't go in Jannah while you're old. You'll become really young, nice, healthy, good looking. Then you'll go in Jannah. Oh, is that what he meant? So, he joked with the lady in order to cheer her up. So his joking was of this type. Tell you.
Description of his words regarding poetry.
Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
He would cite the poetry of the likes of Sayyidina Ibn Rawaha radiallahu anhu and Umayyah. He said the most truthful word spoken by a poet is what the Nabi said. Everything except Allah is false. Every blessing must perish.
He himself would not compose any poetry. Right? In Surah Yasin we read, وَمَا عَلَّمْنَاهُ الشِّعْرَ وَمَا يَنْبَغِي لَهُ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا ذِكْرٌ وَقُرْآنٌ مُبِينٌ. Tafsir Qurtubi states under that every member of the household of Abdul Muttalib had the ability to compose beautiful poetry, including Fatima, the daughter of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, except for Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He couldn't compose poetry. Allah protected him from making poetry because Allah wanted to give him the Quran Sharif. If he had composed poetry for 40 years before his life, they would have said he's a poet. And they did say, Sha'ir, he's a Sha'ir, he's a poet. Allah said, no, he's not a poet. He never composed poetry throughout his life. And Ajib, once Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu was sitting with him, and Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam read someone else's poetry. Satubdi lakal ayyamu ma kunta jahilan وَيَأْتِيكَ مَنْ لَمْ تُزَوِّدْ بِالْأَخْبَارِ. Now, Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq said, Ya Rasulullah, the couplet is not like that. It's سَتُبْدِي لَكَ الْأَيَّامُ مَا كُنْتَ جَاهِلًا وَيَأْتِيكَ بِالْأَخْبَارِ مَنْ لَمْ تُزَوِّدِي. So Rasulullah said, well, what is the difference between this and that? They both say. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr said, صَدَقَ اللَّهُ وَمَا عَلَّمْنَاهُ الشِّعْرَ. So, Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had no acquaintance, familiarity with making poetry. This is his own personality. However, he liked good poetry. He would narrate other people's poetry, like he said over here, أصدق كلمة قالها شاعر كلمة لبيد ألا كل شيء ما خلا الله باطل. Lo, everything besides Allah is batil, worthless, useless, futile. Only Allah is haqq. Everything else is batil. Now when Labid said this poetry, he was not Muslim. He was a non-Muslim. And he read this poetry. Huzur said, that's a very good poetry, very good couplet. And it's the most truthful couplet. Because Quran also said, كُلُّ شَيْءٍ هَالِكٌ إِلَّا وَجْهَهُ لَهُ الْحُكْمُ وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. So he said, أَصْدَقُ كَلِمَةٍ. The most truthful couplet of a poet is this one.
he would set up a pulpit member for Sayyidina Hassan ibn Thabit radiallahu anhu, on which he stood to praise the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
He would tell Hassan to compose poetry in a defense of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Chaliye.
This is sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's night talk.
Night talk. Normally he wouldn't like talking at night after Isha. Hadith says, Naha ani samar ba'da al-Isha. Naha ani nawmi qablaha wal hadithi ba'daha. So we shouldn't have, night jalsas where we have long bayans after Isha and then miss tahajjud, miss fajr, na'udhu billah. Right? Try and avoid that. We have to avoid that. He wouldn't like that. Talking with your family before going to sleep, a little bit of chit chat whilst you are trying to sleep, that is okay. So we read here the hadith about Zara in the next one. Paro?
His companions used to talk in his presence about the days of ignorance, jahiliyyah, while he was silent and did not speak.
This was occasionally at times after Isha, a little bit, few minutes, a little bit talking, that would be allowed. Chaliye?
Sometimes he would participate with them and add his input, as in the case of the story of Khurafa and the hadith of Zara.
Khurafa is a long hadith. Zara's hadith coming next. Chaliye?
Hadith of Zara. 11 women sat.
Hadith of Zara. This is a long hadith narrated in Tirmidhi, in Muslim, and in Bukhari as well, and Imam Tirmidhi, Rahmatullah in Shama'ile as well. Right? 11 women sat down and they made a resolution. We will talk about our husbands and tell the truth, nothing but the truth. Like when you stand in the court, you say, I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So they started talking. Some criticized their husbands, others praised their husbands. The 11th woman, Zara, she praised not only her husband, but her husband, her in-laws, her mother-in-law, her father-in-law, her son, her daughter, and how nice her husband Abu Zara was to her. So she mentioned all that. Now, Nabi Pak sallallahu alayhi wasallam was lying down, talking to our mother Aisha radiallahu anha, narrating this. In some riwayat, Hazrat Aisha narrated it and Huzur heard it. In other riwayat, Huzur narrated it and Hazrat Aisha was listening. Whatever the case, at the end, Zara says that my husband Abu Zara, he saw someone and he fell in love with her and he divorced me. I married another person, he was also very generous, but nothing like Abu Zara. So Nabi Pak sallallahu alayhi wasallam said at the end that, O Aisha, I am to you like Abu Zara for Zara. However, I will never divorce you. And Nabi Pak, Aisha radiallahu anha said, Ya Rasulullah, who is Abu Zara in comparison to you? You are a million times more better than Abu Zara. This is the night talk between husband and wife, right? These days, we have arguments in bed. One turns his face on the right and the other on the left, right? That's not the way to behave with families. We should love our families, and any disagreements we should make up among ourselves. This is the lesson behind this. So his night talk, which includes the hadith of Zara, because it is the largest description, that's why it's called, titled Hadith of Zara. Ji, Parlo hadith jalli, just read it too quickly.
11 women sat together and promised not to conceal anything about their husbands. The first said, my husband resembles the meat of an
emaciated camel, which is placed on the top of a mountain which is not easy to climb, nor is the meat fat which people would transport. The second said, I will not broadcast information about my husband, as I fear that I would not leave talk of him. If I mention him, I will mention all his faults, outward and hidden. The third said, my husband is tall, meaning he is Yankee, long, and he is of bad character. If I speak in his presence, he will divorce me. If I remain silent, I am left hanging. The fourth said, meaning he is a stupid fool. The fourth said, my husband is like the night of Tihama, neither hot nor cold. I do not fear him, nor am I tired of him. The fifth said, my husband is like leopard when he comes in, and lion when he goes out. Leopard sleeps a lot, and lion is brave. He does not ask about what he has seen in the house. In some riwayat, it means that what he has left in the house, meaning he is generous. he just gives, and then he doesn't keep questioning about what is left behind from the food, etc., and money. The sixth said, if my husband eats, he devours, meaning he eats everything, he doesn't leave anything for me. If he drinks, he leaves nothing. If he goes to sleep, he wraps himself in his garment apart from me. He doesn't leave any quilt or blanket for me, and does not extend his hand towards me to know my grief, meaning I hate him, I don't like him. The seventh said, my husband is useless, or she said powerless, and utterly stupid. He has every possible defect. He may injure your head or your body, or he may do the both. She is also criticizing. The eighth said, my husband is soft to touch like a rabbit and has the fragrance of a flower. She is praising. The ninth said, my husband has a high position, leaves abundant ashes. Abundant ashes meaning he is sahi. Because ashes are where there is lots of fire. And fire is where lots of pots and pans are, lots of food is cooked. So lots of mehmans and guests come to his house and he cooks lots of food. So he's very sahi and generous. And has a long sheath, meaning he is tall, brave and handsome. He's a warrior. His house is close to the central gathering. The 10th said, my husband is Malik. What can be said of Malik? Malik is better than that. He has camels, most of which are kept in pens, while only a few are sent to graze. When they hear the sound of flute, when they hear the sound of the flute, they are certain that they will be slaughtered. Meaning Malik is very sahi, and he keeps lots of camels in his house, in the pen, feeds them with the fodder at home. Whenever mehmans arrive, he has a majlis, flute starts, fruit comes around, and start merrymaking, and the camel knows that my time is up. The camel is slaughtered, and the meat is fed to the guests. Now the 11th said, my husband is Abu Zar. What can be said about Abu Zar? He had made my ears dangle with jewelry and filled my arms with fat. He had delighted me so that I was delighted with myself. He found me in hardship among people who tend to sheep, and placed me in a family of horses, camels, cows and grains. I would speak in his presence but not be rebuked. I would sleep until morning, and nobody would say anything to me. And I would drink to my fill, but still leave some behind. As for the mother of Abu Zara, meaning my mother-in-law, what can we said about the mother of Abu Zara? Her containers are huge. Her house is spacious. As for the son of Abu Zara, what can be said about the son of Abu Zara? His bed is like a narrow unsheathed sword, meaning he is thin and strong. And a shoulder of a lamb satisfy him, meaning he can eat the whole shoulder of a lamb himself, and that would be enough to fill him. As for the daughter of Abu Zara, our daughter, what can be said about the daughter of Abu Zara? She is obedient to her father and obedient to her mother. She fills out her garment, meaning she's mashallah. Because Arabs used to like, women with a little bit of meat. So mashallah, she is large, and she fills her garment, and she infuriates her co-wife. Translated co-wife here, the word used here is jarataha, the neighbor, meaning the friends. She is the envy of her friends. They all envy her. As for the slave girl of Abu Zara, what can be said about the slave girl, the maid of Abu Zara? She does not publicize our affairs. She does not misuse our provisions. And she does not fill our house with litter. She's very careful. She doesn't blurt everything out to people outside. She doesn't misuse our food and rations. And she does not fill our house with litter. She keeps it clean. She continued, Abu Zara went out when the milk vessels were being churned, and he came across a woman who had 2 sons like leopards, playing below her waist with her pomegranates. Pomegranates indicates towards her large breasts. So they were playing under her large breast and drinking milk from them. He divorced me and he married her. After him, I married a noble man who rode a fast, tireless horse and carried a spear. He gave me a lot of livestock and gave me a pair of every kind. He said, eat Zara and feed your family. She said, if I collected everything he gave me, it would not reach the smallest vessel of Abu Zara. Aisha said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to me, I am to you as Abu Zara was to Zara. Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah alayhi writes that there is some addition in other riwayat of Tabarani, لَكِنَّهُ طَلَّقَهَا وَلَا أُطَلِّقَكِ. However, he divorced you, but I am not going to divorce you. In Tabarani, she replied, may my mother and father be sacrificed for you, Ya Rasulullah. What is the reality of Abu Zara in comparison to you? You are much more for me than him. So this is Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam talking with his wives at night before going to sleep. Description of his sleep. Chaliye padhiye.
When he went to sleep, he would put his right hand onto his right cheek and say, "Rabbi qini adabaka yawma tub'athu ibadak."
Ji.
He would put his palms together, blow into them, and recite Surah Ikhlas and what was the 10 Surah Falaq and Surah Nas, and then wipe as much of his body as he could, beginning with his head, face, and the upper part of his body. He did that 3 times.
Why would he say, Rabbi qini azabaka yawma tub'athu ibadaka? Protect me from your azab when you raise your servants. Because an-nawmu akhul maut. Because sleep is the brother of death. You don't know many people die in sleep. So he would read this dua before going to sleep. So if he dies, he would die with iman. So we should read this dua and Ayatul Kursi to protect us from shaitan. And Qul huwallah, Qul huwallah, Qul rabbin nas. Okay, Mu'awwazatain and Ikhlas. And then read them, blow on your palms, wipe them over your face and your body, front and back, wherever your hands can reach, on your legs, feet. Alright? Do this amal 3 times. Okay? And then again, reading whilst you're blowing and wiping over your body. Do this 3 times before you go to sleep. This is sunnat, and Allah will protect you from many illnesses, jinn, jadoo, nazar. You will be protected if you do this before you go to sleep every night. Chaliye?
When he went to sleep, he would snore. He prayed without...
Lightly. It was toward the end of his life. Chaliye? He was old as well. Chaliye?
He prayed without renewing wudu because his sleep did not break.
This is speciality of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Chaliye?
The worship of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He prayed standing until his feet were swollen. It was said to him, do you undertake this when Allah has forgiven your prior and future mistakes? He answered, should I then not...
Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah alayhi writes, every action, movement, stillness, speech and silence of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam is ibadat. However, a little bit of his ibadat is narrated over here because it's part of his Shama'ile. We have to remember his ibadat was mainly for shukr. We should also follow him and do as much ibadat as we can. Chaliye?
He answered, should I not then be a thankful servant?
Grateful servant. He would sleep at the beginning of the night and then get up. Before dawn, he prayed the witr. Then he would go to bed. If he had a desire, he would go to his wife. And he heard the adhan. When he heard the adhan, he would quickly get up. If he was in a state of major impurity, janaba, he poured water over himself, meaning performed ghusl. Otherwise, he did wudu and went to the prayer. If he had not prayed at night, sleep having prevented him, or due to having overslept, meaning sometimes sickness, illness, etc., he would pray 12 rakats in the day, meaning he would do qaza of his tahajjud. Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha said in Ramadan and at other times he did not exceed 11 rakats. He would pray 4 and do not ask about the beauty and the length, and then pray another 4 and do not ask about their beauty and the length, and then pray 3. What is Sayyidah Aisha talking about? Which namaz is she talking about? Tahajjud, right? So his tahajjud was normally how many rakats? 8 rakats followed by 3 witr at the end of the night. She is not talking about Taraweeh. People say it's Taraweeh and they say Taraweeh is only 8 rakats. They're mistaken, my friend. Right? Read Shuruhat, lots of kalam on there. This hadith says it. And it says in Ramzan and outside Ramzan. You don't pray Taraweeh outside Ramzan. Right? This is tahajjud. Because tahajjud is prayed in Ramzan and throughout the other 11 months. So the 8 rakat hadith is for tahajjud, not for Taraweeh. For Taraweeh, there's other hadith. There's the hadith of Ibn Abi Shayba where he prayed 20 rakats Taraweeh on the night. He prayed throughout the whole night till Sehri time. And then Sayyidina Umar knew that. That's why Sayyidina Umar in the year 14 said Taraweeh 20 rakats. And from then on, the whole Ummah has been praying 20 rakats. Make sure you pray 20 rakats, not 8. Okay? This is the meaning of it. Um, Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha said, I said, Messenger of Allah, do you sleep before you pray? He said, Aisha, my eyes sleep, but my heart does not sleep. Sometimes he stood at night reciting a single verse the whole night. Like the hadith said, In tu'adhibum fa innahu ibadu, he read it the whole night. He prayed 2 rakahs before Dhuhr, 2 after Eid, 2 after Maghrib in his house, and 2 after Isha in his house. This is one hadith. There is another hadith about 12 rakats. And من ثابر على ثنتي عشرة ركعة في اليوم والليلة بنى الله له بيتا في الجنة, narrated by Tirmidhi ibn Majah from Habiba رضي الله عنها. And that says 4 rakahs before Zuhr. This is why Imam Abu Hanifa said there's 4 sunnati muakkada before Zuhr. He would pray Dhuha forenoon with 4 rakats and added however more Allah wished. He also prayed 6 or 8 rakats, meaning in Salatul Dhuha. He would pray 4 rakats after the sun declined before Dhuhr. He said, it is the time in which the gates of heaven are opened, and I want for a righteous action to ascend for me in it. He liked to perform voluntary prayers in his house despite being so close to the masjid. He gave the same instructions to someone who had asked him. His fasting. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam would fast until it would be said he will continue to fast, and refrain from fasting until it would be said he will not fast. His habit of fasting was amazing. He had full control over himself. He would fast when he wanted to, and he would avoid fasting when he wanted to. He did not fast for an entire month other than Ramadan after he arrived in Medina. He would fast most of Sha'ban. He fasted 3 days at the beginning of every lunar month. He was particular about fasting Mondays and Thursdays and said actions are presented on Mondays and Thursdays, so I wish my actions are presented whilst I'm fasting. The recitation, tilawat of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam. His recitation was clear, with every letter being distinct. He extended the letters, stretched them. He put pauses in his recitation. He would say, praise be to Allah, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. And then he would pause between the verses. The Prophet ﷺ sometimes recited silently and sometimes aloud. This is in Tahajjud. He had a beautiful voice. Sometimes his voice could be heard by those in one room whilst he was in the smaller room. He would not recite in a singing tune. The weeping of the Prophet ﷺ. He would pray from his chest. He would pray, and from his chest emanated a sound like the gurgling of a pot when it boils. Put when the kettle is boiling. He would have so much khawf of Allah in his heart that when he was reading, his heart would make noise like a boiling kettle. He wept when the following verse was recited to him. We bring you as a witness against them. وَجِئْنَا بِكَ عَلَى هَؤُلَاءِ شَهِيدًا. His eyes wept out of mercy when a daughter of his died. He wept when Sayyiduna Uthman ibn Maz'un died, and also when his daughter Sayyiduna Kulthum died. So he used to cry a lot. Tears would come to him very quickly. As the Shaykh has mentioned here about the reasons, 11 reasons why a person cries, and he said Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's most crying was due to shawq and love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Moving on, the bed of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His bed on which he slept on in the room of Sayyidina Aisha was made of a tanned leather stuffed with palm fiber. His bedding in the room of Sayyidina Hafsa was a hair garment or a rough woolen cloth, which she once folded 4 times. He said, return it to its former states. Its softness prevented me from praying tahajjud last night. His humility. He would say, do not exaggerate in praising me as the Christians did with Isa son of Maryam. I am a slave, so say, the slave of Allah and His Messenger. لا تطروني كما أطرت النصارى عيسى ابن مريم فإنما أنا عبد فقولوا عبد الله ورسوله. A woman came to him for something she needed, to which he said, sit in any of the roads of Medina you wish, and I will sit with you and I will give you whatever you ask for. He would visit the sick and attend the funerals. He rode donkeys and accepted the invitation of slaves. On the day of the siege of Banu Qurayza, he rode a donkey whose reins were made of palm fiber, with a saddle of palm fiber. Right? In our terms, we could say he wouldn't demand for a Mercedes or a Rolls Royce. He would go in any simple small car, right? A donkey, mule. He wouldn't ask for the best horse to ride on. He was a simple person. He had humility in him. He would be invited to eat barley bread with stale oil or fat, and he would accept. He had armor which was pawned to a Jew and he did not have enough to redeem it until he died. Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu redeemed it. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam performed Hajj on a worn out pack saddle covered by a cloth which was not worth 4 dirhams and said, "O Allah, make it a Hajj with no ostentation or seeking fame." His companions did not stand up for him since they knew he disliked that. When he went to his house, he divided his time into 3 parts. 1 part for Allah, 1 part for his family, and 1 part for himself. Then he divided his portion between himself and people. His elite would convey that, meaning whatever was imparted in those gatherings, to the common people, and he would not withhold anything from them. He would prefer the people of excellence according to their ranks in the religion, and he would say to them, "Let those who are present convey to those who are absent. Convey to me the need of those who cannot convey. If someone conveys the need of a person who cannot convey it personally, Allah will make his feet firm on the day of rising." That was all that was mentioned in his presence, and he did not accept anything else from it, meaning good about other people. They would enter in need of his knowledge and manners, and they would only leave after having eaten or taken knowledge. They would leave as guides towards good. He controlled his tongue except from that which contained benefit or use. He did not repel his companions. He honored the noble person among the people and appointed him over them as their leader. He socialized with people, but was cautious about them, without withdrawing his jolliness and good character from anyone. He asked people about their affairs. He encouraged what was good and affirmed it, whilst he denounced what was base and debased it. His entire life was in balance, without discrepancy. He was not neglectful in correcting people, due to the fear that people would become absent-minded or fatigued. He was ready and prepared for every situation. He did not give any concession in the case of a right, but did not exceed the limit either. Those who were close to him were the best of people. The best of them in his sight were those who were the greatest well-wishers. The people who had the greatest position with him were those who were best in bringing comfort to the Muslims and helping them. The Prophet ﷺ did not stand or sit without dhikr of Allah, mentioning Allah. When he reached a gathering of people, he sat where the gathering ended. He also ordered the same. He graced anyone who sat with him with a share of his kindness and honor, according to the person's right. No one who sat with him thought anyone was more honored in his eyes than him. He endured with one who sat with him or turned to him for advice. He did not rush to stand or end a conversation until the person himself left. If someone asked him for a need, he would not do less than turn him away with comforting words. Meaning, if he was able to give, he would give. If unable to fulfill his particular needs, he would say some comforting words. His cheerfulness and good character encompassed everyone. Thus, he became like a father to them. They were all equal with him when it came to what was right. His gathering was one of knowledge, in which voices were not raised. The old were respected in his gatherings, and the young were shown mercy. He would say, if I was given a trotter, I would accept it. If I was invited to a trotter, I would accept it. He would ride and go on foot. He went to the person who invited him. He would milk his goat and attend himself. This is mentioned in the humility of the Prophet ﷺ. Next is the character of the Prophet ﷺ. Many of the things of the previous chapter can be included in this chapter as well. Because of lack of time, we'll have to rush quickly. Sayyidina Anas radiallahu anhu served him for 10 years, but he never rebuked him for anything. He did not confront anyone nor dislike matters, as he never exceeded the required amount of speech. He did not repay an evil with evil, but pardoned and forgave. He did not hit anyone with his hand except whilst doing jihad in the path of Allah. He did not seek revenge for an injustice done to him, unless one of the sanctities of Allah Almighty was violated. He was not given a choice between 2 things, but that he chose the easier of them, as long as it was not a sin. Meaning, this is for the ummah. For himself, he would be strict on himself. He never refused when asked for anything. He would particularly address the lowest of people to encourage them. When he spoke, those who sat with him lowered their heads as though birds were perched on them. When he was silent, they would speak. They would not argue in his presence. If someone spoke in his presence, they remained silent until he finished speaking. When one of them spoke, it was as if he was the first to speak, meaning all the majlis was equal. Everybody had equal rights to speak in his majlis. He laughed at what they laughed at and was surprised at what they were surprised at them. He endured the harsh speech and questions of the foreigners. When they mentioned this world in his presence, he discussed it with them. When they mentioned the next world, akhirat, he would mention the akhirat. He did not store anything for the next day. He would give it out. He accepted gifts and reciprocated them. The modesty of the Prophet ﷺ, he was more modest than a virgin in her way. He did not look at the private parts of his wives, nor did they see his. The cupping of the Prophet ﷺ, he was cupped and gave the cupper a wage. He was cupped in the vein on the side of the neck and between his shoulders. He would be cupped on the 17th, 18th or 21st of the lunar month. He was cupped between Makkah and Medina on the top of his foot when he was in ihram. Maybe there was some pain or illness there. His names were Muhammad, Ahmad, Al-Mahi, the eradicator, through whom Allah will eradicate disbelief, kufr. Al-Hashir, the gatherer, at whose feet Allah will gather people. And Al-Aqib, the last, after whom there will be no prophet. He is the prophet of mercy, Nabiyul Marhamah, prophet of repentance, Nabiyul Tawbah, and Al-Muqaffi, the one who follows other prophets, and the prophet of battles, Nabiyul Malahim, because he was sent with the sword. His way of life. In the beginning, he could not find dates enough to fill his noble stomach, even dates of poor quality. This was by way of him choosing this condition and not by way of coercion. He would go for a month in his house without lighting a fire, only drinking water and eating dates. Sometimes he would tie 2 stones to his stomach due to the intensity of the hunger. At times he went to home of one of his companions to eat, like the 2 sheikhs Abu Bakr and Umar, or he went to eat with them, as occurred on the day when they were at the home of Sayyidina Abu Haytham ibn Tayhan. He first brought a bunch of fresh and dried dates, which he presented to them. He then slaughtered an animal. Abu Haytham slaughtered an animal for them, and the Prophet ﷺ drank from the water which he had brought. The Prophet ﷺ repaid him for his generosity towards them by giving him a slave from the captives. Abu Haytham set him free, following his wife's suggestion to the act on the advice of the Messenger. People at the beginning of Islam experienced great constriction. There was one expedition in which there was no food other than the leaves of trees, to the extent that the sides of their mouths were cut, and they had to share a single garment between them. After the spread of Islam, every one of them became a governor of a city. The chosen one ﷺ informed us regarding his noble self with his truthful words. I was threatened in the way of Allah in a way no one else was threatened. I have been injured in the way of Allah in a way no one else was harmed. 30 days and nights passed upon me in which Bilal and I did not possess any food which any living thing could eat, meaning to fill himself, except for something which the armpit of Bilal concealed. His age. It is said that he was 63, he was 60 or 65. The soundest position is that he was 63. The death of the Prophet ﷺ. He passed away on Monday. He was leaning on Sayyida Aisha radiallahu anha when he breathed his last. During his last moments, he had a cup of water into which he would dip his hand and then wipe his face with the water. He would be saying, "Oh Allah, help me in the disliked aspects," or he said, "the pains of death." In another riwayat, he would wipe the water on his face and he was saying, "La ilaha illallah, inna lil mawti sakarat, la ilaha illallah, inna lil mawti sakarat." And then he said, "Allahumma a'inni ala ghamaratil mawt wa sakaratil mawt." And then he said, مَعَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ مِنَ النَّبِيِّينَ وَالصِّدِّيقِينَ وَالشُّهَدَاءِ وَالصَّالِحِينَ. And his last words were, Allahumma fir rafiqil ala. O Allah, I would love to join the loftiest of companions, meaning Allah Himself or the Malay Ala, those high above the heavens. So these were his last words about his burial. They disagreed about his burial. Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq disagreed, meaning they had different opinions about his burials. Sayyidina Abu Bakr said, I heard him say, Allah does not take a prophet except in the place where He wants him to be buried. Bury him where his bed is. So they removed his bed and dug the grave there, and that's where he was buried. This is because of that hadith. And he was not buried in the masjid. It was not a masjid. It was the house of Aisha radiallahu anha, outside the masjid. The masjid were extended later on. So don't say he was buried in the masjid. Okay, maybe after so many years. So he was buried in the house of Aisha radiallahu anha. Because of the hadith that Allah does not take a prophet except in the place where He wants him to be buried. Bury him where his bed is. Sayyidina Abu Bakr kissed him between his eyes after he died. He said, O Prophet, O pure friend, O close friend. He was buried on Tuesday night. May my soul be ransom for his breath. His legacy, miras. He only left his armor, his mule, and some land which he left as charity, sadaqah, and it was given out as sadaqah. He said, we do not leave inheritance. Whatever we leave is charity, sadaqah. However, he left knowledge as his inheritance, dreaming of him. Whoever sees him in a dream, whoever sees me in a dream, has truly seen me. The devil cannot assume my appearance, impersonate me, come in the dream of a person and say, I'm your prophet. Okay? All praises for Allah, Lord of the world. Blessings and peace be upon our Master Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his family, companions, and all those who follow them in excellence. Okay, the kitab finished. Alhamdulillah. We had to rush through it because there is no time. We are close to Asr time. May Allah accept. May Allah give us the true love of Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We read about his characters, akhlaq, behavior, his humility. May Allah give us those good akhlaq and characters of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما اللهم ارزقنا حبك وحب رسولك وحب من ينفعنا حبه عندك وحب عمل يقربنا إلى حبك اللهم أحينا على حبك وعلى حب حبيبك صلى الله عليه وسلم وأمتنا على حبك وعلى حب حبيبك صلى الله عليه وسلم واحشرنا يوم القيامة على حبيبك مع حبيبك على حبك مع حبيبك صلى الله عليه وسلم ومع أحبائك من الأولياء والعلماء والصلحاء والمشايخ يا رب العالمين Ya Rahman Rahimeen, O Allah, you are the most gracious, most kind, most forgiving. Please forgive us. Please have mercy upon us. Please accept our humble efforts. Please give us your true love and the love of your beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. O Allah, whatever we have learned today in Shama'ile, O Allah, allow us to absorb whatever we have learned and put into practice whatever we have learned. O Allah, make each and every one of us a carbon copy of our beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Give us the tawfiq and ability to love him, cherish him, to follow in his footsteps, to abide by his instructions and commands, and to make him our uswa hasana and role model. Give us true ishq of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Keep us close to him in this dunya and in the hereafter on the day of judgment, and keep us close to him in Jannatul Firdaus Abzal. Accept our humble efforts. Reward those who organize this conference and this Shama'ile course, and reward all the youngsters, the gents and the ladies who have come here to this Nusratul Islam Masjid in Oldham for this Shama'ile course. Reward them all in full and benefit them from the knowledge which they have just acquired, and accept our humble efforts. Be pleased with us all. Give us all the good thing which your beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked from you, and protect us all from the evils, trials, tribulations, problems, fitnas, diseases, sicknesses, illnesses from which your beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam has sought your protection. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى اللهم وسلم على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا رب.